Hello and welcome to The Gaggle, where we challenge and, if necessary, destroy media narratives. I'm George Szamuely. With me today, of course, is Buddy, co-founder of The Gaggle, and his would-be friend, Peter Lavelle, host also of RT's talk show, Crosstalk. Well, Peter, it's quite an extraordinary turn of events. Tucker Carlson, who's the leading cable news commentator in the United States, his show is always the #1 ranking show on cable. He's spending an entire week in Hungary. He's doing every show from Budapest, and his week is culminating in a lecture that he's delivering at the Matthias Corvinus Collegium. I think the lecture will be entitled something like "The World According to Tucker Carlson." The MCC, this Matthias Corvinus Collegium, isn't really a university. It's more of a kind of institution founded by the government to promote an alternative view of the world to that of George Soros. So it's it's training future leaders. So people go there from universities, but it also has school students who come to listen to lectures and take part in seminars, workshops, and so on. Anyway, he'll be there on Saturday. This is at the end of this 3-day festival they're having at this.
Are you going to go?
I don't know. I'll see. So he's going to give that. Now, I do think that there's something very extraordinary about this. I mean, he could have come to deliver the lecture. People might have known about it, but that would have been that. He would have come in, flown out, and that's that. Instead, he has done very prominently in Budapest. If you saw his show yesterday, he was giving little tours of the city, giving beautiful views of it. This is nothing short of an endorsement of Viktor Orban, because he has already published a photograph of him and Orban together on his Twitter page, and Orban himself has published a picture of him and Tucker Carlson on Orban's Facebook page. So I imagine there's going to be an interview at some point, maybe tonight, maybe sometime later on in this week. But Carlson has spoken many times admiringly of Hungary, particularly of its family policy and its trying to increase its population by natural means rather than importing labor from all over the world. So this is I think a major coup for the Orban government, because it has behind it the leading cable news host in the United States. So if as is likely, the Biden administration is going to come after him because they want him beaten. They badly want him beaten next year. So then he will have in his corner Tucker Carlson, who is a very influential figure, clearly has a lot of following in the United States. So he's going to have all of those people in Orban's corner. So the stakes have been raised for next year's election. Right, Peter, what was your take?
Well, and did you see how CNN reacted to it?
Yes, I did. Yes. Yeah,
it was disgusting.
Disgusting.
So this institute that you're talking about, I saw the list of lectures that brainless idiot Brian Stelter apparently says that's a far right-wing agenda.
Far right-wing. That's it.
I saw nothing there, George. Maybe it's in code or something.
Right. Roger Dreher, I'm not a great fan of. I think
I read him often. I'm not a huge fan.
Right. Yeah. But he's going to be speaking there, and But go on.
But I mean, it's very, very. Tucker has an enormous amount of courage, and a lot of people. And I'm not going to go to the mat for Tucker Carlson. I don't know him personally. Okay, I don't. But I've followed his career. You and I remarked many times the early part of his career, he turned me off completely, like a cold shower, okay? And through the years, I think he's got his bearings. He's willing to admit when he's wrong. He can change his mind if you convince him. Julian Assange is a good example there. So I see a lot of courage here, and he's acting out his words. He believes, and you can go later if you want to, but like the tax policy in families, the more children you have, the lower your tax obligation. Hey, this is innovative stuff. I think it's really smart, okay? Right. And so, Tucker's showing his courage. He is an admirer of some of the things the Hungarian government has done under Orbán, and he's not afraid of saying it. And so, I mean, it's really interesting because he wanted to get an interview with Putin, and now he's in Hungary. I mean, he's poking everybody right now. He's really, really doing it.
Yes.
And his show last night was very beautiful, very beautifully done. Okay. You live there. I lived there for about 6 months. It's an absolutely gorgeous city, and I'm really glad that he's highlighting it. But he's drawing a line in the sand, and this is a very much, in my opinion, this is full-throated, full-throttle, throwing down the gauntlet in front of neoliberalism, particularly the project called the EU. Okay,
right,
so
right.
I'm very excited about it. And once I heard, like you said, he could have probably just done it by Zoom if he wanted to.
Exactly.
Okay,
That's
but
exactly
one
right.
full week in the entire, this is his 5th year. I've never seen him take a week off to go visit someplace.
I've not done it either. You know, he's visited other countries to do short interviews or even long interviews, but that's it. He just goes there, interviews the president of, whoever, El Salvador, and then he comes back. This is 5 days. So it's going to be 5 days. Every single day will be from Budapest. And as I say, then the culmination of it will be on Saturday when he gives this lecture at the MCC. So, so that's 5 days, pretty much kind of an endorsement of Hungary. And even yesterday, he was endorsing, he said, well, when he was talking about crime in the US cities, and says, well, Americans don't seem to realize that, people live in cities in which they don't have crime, in which people are not just accepting of, you can't go out of the house, or, you get knocked over the head, or you get, beaten up and whatever. So he said, yeah, people live, in Budapest, people live, relatively crime-free. So everything here is again, a kind of a celebration of a kind of a conservative country. I mean, Hungary is a very conservative country. He's saying, here's a conservative country that lives by the kind of conservative principles that Tucker Carlson, admires.
Well, there was one, I think he was going to a break or coming out of a break. I don't know what building was, maybe it was at the Parliament building.
So then we talk about the competition.
But another little quick segment, he looked at the bullet holes in the building, okay? And it could have been, who knows, it could have gone back to Bela Kun for all we know.
Right, no, exactly, that was just bullets.
Right, he didn't mention that one, but I mean, certainly the Second World War and the 56 uprising. But what I hope he does, and I'm pretty sure he is going to do it, is that Hungary is his foil. I mean, I don't think he's going to expect people to learn a whole lot about Hungary during his short time there. But what he's going to do is, I think the foil is, by showing those bullet holes, is that what Hungary has had to go through in the ideological biosphere that it has had to transcend. And so we have the fascistic period of the 30s, we have the Second World War, we have the communist government, we have nuances there, Kadar and people like that. And I'm hoping he's going to say, here's a people and how they have maneuvered their way through these gigantic tidal waves of ideological violence.
Right. No, I think that's right. It's a very audacious move on his part, because Hungary now is a country that probably gets a worse rap than anyone else. I mean, maybe even worse probably than Poland, because you've got obviously Orbán, who's the bête noire of every liberal everywhere. But then you've also got, Hungary, the Hungarians, who don't seem to like immigrants, gypsies very much. Then you've got the Hungary that, is accused, much like Poland or much like many other countries, accused of not being forthright enough about its record in World War II. And then, of course, you can keep going back and, all the other things about which we talked about yesterday, Hungary and the modularization policy that he pursued before World War I. So to embrace the cause of Hungary requires a certain amount of bravery. I'm an admirer of the Hungarians. I think they're a brave, proud, people with an extraordinary culture, but they're not a fashionable people, and they've never really been a fashionable people. It's fashionable to dislike them. So for Tucker to do this again, it's quite an audacious step.
I'm glad you brought up Poland, because a lot of the squabbles that Poland has with Brussels is institutional. It's about the role of the judiciary, the appointing of judges. It's very technocratic in that way. But with Hungary, it's a whole different kettle of fish, because it's a pure ideological choice. Okay, right. And again, I have a great admiration for the Hungarians. I mean, for a small group of people having a completely alien language. I mean, very insular, and in the time that I lived there, I found them to be very insular people. They don't talk much, actually.
No, they're exactly, very insular. You know, not great fans of outsiders.
But they're very determined at the same time, and I think this is a monumental moment for us in the West, because there are still choices you can make. I mean, we're always presented that the end of history is here, and they're just filling in the lines. The book's been written. Okay, we're just doing a little editing. Hungarians are saying no. There's a lot of bad chapters but we can still write it our own. Okay, and I think it takes a lot of courage to do that, and they're absolutely right that we are not at the end of anything. Right. It's the end if you accept it.
Right. No, that's right. And I think that what Orban has done, I mean, he's kind of really thrown down the gauntlet on a number of issues. I mean, first of all, he's pretty much been the apostle of this movement of illiberalism. He says, I believe in democracy. I don't believe in liberalism. I mean, I'm not a liberal. So he says,
not a contradiction, George. No, it's not a contradiction.
Not a contradiction at all. Exactly. People always assume the two go together. He said, no. He's also, as we discussed yesterday, he's now defined this notion of Central Europe as a kind of this is the kind of advanced party of a kind of future European civilization, to move away from that whole kind of Western concept, become Central Europe is the defining moment. His policy, his very independent foreign policy, again, he's bucked the trend in Europe basically, he's just not gone along with the EU, the whole thing. I mean, you remember when they had that whole sanctions thing? Every single country in the EU imposed sanctions on Russia. The United States, they kicked out 60 diplomats. I think the UK kicked out 23 diplomats. Can't remember how the French and the Germans and so on. And then Hungary could have expelled one diplomat.
A chauffeur.
And the Russians, they retaliated against everybody except the Hungarians and said, the hell with it. We're not going to throw out one Hungarian diplomat.
Like I said, I'm very excited about this, because it is what Tucker does. Tucker's putting meat on the bones here, because he's always talking about what is Tucker? Tucker's a critique of neoliberalism. That's what he does. Okay, that's what he does. Yes. And now he's going to a place that is actually in the middle of its own experiment, using many of the ideas that he has. And ideas that he's learned about or maybe refined. I certainly have, looking at the Hungarian case. Yeah. And you're absolutely right. I mean, it's really extraordinary. Just before we convened right here, I was checking out the latest news, and just the intense bias, boom, article after article after article. It's amazing.
Right. No, it is. And they're also talking about these dark, as the Orban government put some money into the public relations campaign in Washington. That's obviously what's behind it. Carlson doesn't need any money. I mean, the idea that he's going to accept money, he's got plenty of money.
But he's always had money.
He's always had money, and he must make astronomical sums from Fox News. The idea that he's going to be motivated by a few $100,000 that the Orban government has put into a PR campaign, it's an absurdity. But I think it's, and then of course they've also thought, well, you know, all the money that Orban has put into this MCC, this the Matthias Corvinus Collegium. Yeah, how much money have all the NGOs put in? How much money did they put into that ridiculous Central European University, always hailed as one of the top universities in the world? Nothing of the sort, but that, you know, it always gets that billing in the media. How much money went into that? I mean, all the Soros thing and everything else. So, you know, whatever the government put in, I mean, Hungary doesn't have that much money, but whatever they put into the MCC, you know, it pales in comparison with the money that pours into all these Soros things.
It's just the opposite. It's because Tucker has money, he can't be bought. I mean, that it gives him freedom to do what he wants to do. Do you think anybody at MSNBC or CNN would do something so audacious? Okay. Right. No, they know the rules. They know the guard lines. They know where to go. Okay. Right. No, I mean, just like you said, George, and I thought it was really insightful on your part. Tucker might want to interview Putin, as if, no, Chris Wallace did not too long ago. Right. What's her name that used to be over there at Fox?
Oh, Megyn Kelly. Megyn Kelly.
Did? She did. Okay, but George, you got it right. It might be an interesting interview instead of just, right. How often do you beat your wife?
Right, exactly. That's right. That's why I go on. No, and that's why I'm looking forward to his interview with Orban. I assume it's going to take place. I mean, they wouldn't be posing for photographs if this wasn't preliminary to an interview, because I think Orban is going to be allowed, time in which to develop his ideas and tell Americans about his vision of the world, but Western civilization and so on. It's going to have a big audience here in the United States. I mean, I think that's it's a very big deal for Orban suddenly to have it, because the only people who have ever interviewed him, to the extent that any of that, would be New York Times reporters who indeed do ask those questions about why are you cracking down on freedom? Why are you brutalizing journalists or brutalizing gays or gypsies or whatever? That's all they would ask him. So here you'd be able to elaborate on something about illiberalism. What does he mean by illiberalism?
And he'll have a chance to critique the EU, a platform that he has never had and never probably will have again. So he'll be able to give his critique of the EU and how the juxtaposition between how the EU is building a super state at odds with the sovereign interests of a democratic electorate in Hungary. Okay, right. No one ever phrases it that way, George. Right. Never. Okay, and he'll have an opportunity to say that, and I want to hear it.
Yeah, that's absolutely, and you'll be able to talk also about immigration, about family policy, about education, all of the things that really Americans only hear about through the filter of the New York Times and CNN and so on. And so they just hear that he's this monster, he's this Hungarian monster. So I think it's just an extraordinary coup on his part. He has raised the stakes because as we were saying at the beginning, there's going to be an election next year. Blinken and the rest of them, they absolutely hate Orban. Blinken in particular, because his father had been an ambassador to Hungary in the Bill Clinton era. So it's going way back when, long before, Orban's emergence on the scene. So Blinken has a particular hatred for him.
Yeah, and Hungary was a really a good student, okay? Because I was there in the early 90s, and the American and Western NGOs and doing all this, we're going to remake Hungary and everything. And of course, when I was there, Hungary was still really quite impoverished. It was very poor. And they had these groups of these of young people, going to their seminars. Everything's printed out for them, except make sure they speak English. Right. And then and then the allure of the West started to fade away, because they became more affluent and we can become more affluent, but we don't need their ideology to be affluent.
Right.
I can buy a house and a car. I don't need to be a liberal. Okay, I can still buy a house and car and believe what I want to believe.
Right. No, exactly, and that's the point. That there's this idea that you have to have this package, which is
everything's connected.
Yeah, exactly, and you have to buy into liberalism. I mean, Putin sort of also argues that, but Putin has never really, expressed with so explicitly his detestation of liberalism as Orban did. So I mean, I think Putin, is in sympathy with it, but I mean, I don't think Putin would regard himself as one of the leaders of the illiberalism movement.
No, and why would he? Because Russia is safe and confident about its own identity. It's not, it may be challenged, but they're insulated from it. Okay. Now Hungary is surrounded by it. Okay, and Brussels is always threatening the purse strings. Okay, and that doesn't apply to Russia. Okay, and so the Hungarians, again, much smaller. It's a small place, a small population, and the full force of the EU and the Western media. I mean, it's really an amazing Goliath and David story.
It is. I mean, already they've been cut off from funds for COVID relief funds. No.
Oh yeah, wow, that's a real liberal thing to do. Yeah,
always, yeah, exactly. Always the liberal thing. You don't go along with us. We hit you with sanctions. We deny you COVID relief funds. Hey, go sling your hook. I mean, that's really their attitude. Yeah, very liberal, very tolerant. Very worshipful of diversity. Yeah, we really like diversity.
We don't like Orban, so we're going to punish the Hungarian people because they democratically elected him. That's liberalism.
Exactly. That's it, exactly. And no relief funds for you. Okay. Well, I think it's going to be a very interesting. Already yesterday's show was interesting. I think the next 4 days we'll have, I think, interesting shows.
And everybody knows where to come to watch the follow-up and a postmortem. Come right here.
Absolutely, yeah. We'll be doing the postmortems, exactly.
All right, everybody, we're on the Gaggles on Locals. So go to the gaggle.locals.com. We're doing one-on-one Zoom interviews. We did one yesterday, which is absolutely brilliant. Okay,
right. We're Richard Barris, exactly. It's all it's on the Locals page. Absolutely, everyone should read, take a look at it. It's superb.
The Gaggle store is up. George has already come out with his streaming. On Friday we're going to do a super chat.
Either Thursday or Friday, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, that's right.
We have a super chat coming up on YouTube. They're let us back on. Okay. And of course, the last thing, George.
The last thing is the tip jar that your little friend Buddy has had more than his share of.
He heard tip jar.
Yeah, the tip jar. He's had more than his share, and it's getting on the empty side. So in order that some of us, other than Buddy, will have a share of that, we really need some more contributions. But seriously, we appreciate any help you can offer. We don't have wealthy patrons backing us, so we live off the kindness of strangers, and we very much appreciate
the star power, Buddy.
Exactly. But remember, if you like the Gaggle, please like, share, and subscribe. Bye, Buddy. See you soon. Bye-bye.